this one, what I'm going to try and do is something ever so slightly different. So I've got a friend along to play through this second mission in the area of Buron, and it's basically going to be a little bit like I don't know if you remember Time Commanders, so early 2000s BBC TV program, and what it was like part game show and part documentary or history type show. And they basically took two teams of sort of like almost
novices.
Yeah, it's like the office away day.
Today, the fate of these two armies lies with a group of musicians from Durham. Today, the fate of one of these armies rests with a netball team from London. Leading the Greeks are a team of amateur sailors.
Both of them are unfamiliar with computer games. Neither of them know the history of the battle, just like us. And so, like, that doesn't influence their success. It is mostly about... So, like, after a brief introduction to the battle, the military units, the terrain, the available forces, they take these two email job officers...
Pen pushers.
Yeah, and they like, right, now make up a strategy for deploying your forces. So in terms of what we've got as a bigger picture, we're back over to the north of Caen, and it is another offensive. So where the previous Operation Epsom, it was a sort of flanking attack, I suppose, looking to the west of Caen. This one's a direct approach into Caen from the north. So it's a follow-on from other mission that will have been recorded for this morning. So that's the attack into Buron, and this is sort of the follow-up, looking at the defence of Buron. So you're expecting a German counter-attack.
Yeah.
And it sort of so if I go over to this, I've tried to combine these two maps basically, and I don't know how successful it is, but this is the larger picture. So we had a mission I think it was the second mission. So you might be familiar with Oti. I kept pronouncing it wrong, Orthi, but it was Oti, I think.
Yeah.
So there was a battle within Oti where you had the SS attacking through there. And I think as it stands, so this was the picture on the day of this operation. So they'd been on the 7th, I think they were pushed out of Oti. Looking on this map, they were pushed further back beyond Buron, and now we're looking at a wider operation to the north of Caen, which is looking to push south. Yeah, this is the bigger picture. So, in terms of... So it's a single page for the actual briefing, which is straightforward, and it just reiterates what we've covered a little bit in that opening bit. So I can read through this, and then we'll make our considerations based on what we've got here. So, situation is 11 o'clock on the 8th of July 1944 in East Buron. Earlier today, the Highland Light Infantry of Canada assaulted the town of Buron to the northwest of Caen. While the HLIC took heavy casualties, the village was secured, and the battalion is consolidating its positions on the objective. While our tanks from the Fort Garry Horse have been withdrawn to resupply and refuel, we've been reinforced by 245 Battery, 62 Anti-Tank Regiment Royal Artillery. They provided both 17-pounder 80 guns and Wolverine tank destroyers. Standard enemy doctrine would indicate an imminent enemy counterattack. This sector of front is held by the 12th SS Panzer Division, which has a number of intact tanks and assault guns. So that's our first hint of the enemy and what we've got. So, mission. A Company Highland Light Infantry of Canada is to hold East Buron against the expected armoured counterattack in order to maintain the momentum of Operation CHARNWOOD. Friendly forces, so we've got A Company, HLIC. They've taken severe casualties during the assault, so it's about 60% strength. So that's our infantry, which has been... They're not full strength, basically.
Right.
We can check what it looks like for ammunition, what it looks like for equipment. So if they're down on any anti-tank assets, but broadly speaking, that's like 40% of our men were killed or wounded this morning. In addition, so 2 17-pounder AT guns. We could probably have a quick Google, see what their capabilities are.
I mean, I don't know much, but that they sound vital to the success of this mission.
I think so. I think we'll look it up, but like my basic understanding is that 17-pounder is the same gun they put in the Firefly.
Yeah, Firefly, Sherman, Firefly. Yeah.
So it
can take on any German
serious tanks.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
2 Wolverine tank destroyers, also from 245 battery. We've got a platoon of machine guns, and then 3-inch mortar section from the battalion reserve. So this is it's mortars. We'll see what we can do with that alongside. So there's a troop of 25-pounder guns. So this I don't know if you've seen the other ones. Like it's a field gun. It's artillery, basically off map. And what you can it's
like an air equivalent of an airstrike, is it?
It's artillery. It's artillery. So like what you'll see is what I've found playing so far is it's pretty good against. So this is probably going to be an interesting one in terms of the use of the 25-pounder gun. So I think the main. So actually looking at it as a whole, should we do the enemy forces then and come back to that?
Yeah.
So enemy forces is likely to consist of mechanized infantry supported by tanks and assault guns from the 12th SS Panzer Division. No further intelligence available. So that's what we're looking at. On a tactical map, it's open fields to our fronts apart from this wood block. And yeah, looking at this, I think our main assets are going to be our anti-tanks.
Yeah. So
anti-tank assets.
It's that little map there. Does that show from which direction the enemy will be coming from?
Yeah, they're like, so if we think of the one this earlier, so up in the top you've sort of got, that's the computer game representation of the actual old-fashioned map we were looking at.
Right.
So we've been coming south.
Yeah.
Their counter-attack's likely to come north, and then this one north's that direction. So we came in from the north. Yeah. They'll come up from the south.
North. Yeah, I see what you mean. So, what's that blue? Band?
I think so. What that probably represents is just. So this is our deployment zone, and it sort of represents this
arc of fire
forward line that we can deploy. Well, that they're currently deployed behind, I suppose. And I think it's well, actually we're on the map now, so we can just have a look at what we've got. So that's a good spot. So that's A company. What we have of it.
Yeah, the 60% strength.
And so this is, they're not, well actually they're down to 2 men. Oh no, they're sort of split up. So is there any other examples from? So we've still got 3 platoons. It looks like, so you can see some of these are smaller groups because they've split them out. So what you can do with the game is, what you can do with the game is split teams into your gun group, your anti-tank assets.
Right. Yeah.
So it looks like some of this where you see 2 section B detachment or 2 section C detachment. Some of that looks like it's just on purpose being broken down. But where was it? It was up here. But if you look at 3 section, for example, I think a British, it's Canadian, sorry. So I think a Canadian platoon, not a platoon, a section, sorry. So a Canadian section is typically 10 men, I want to say, right. And they're down to half that. So again, it's like this one's at 6.
Is a section about half a platoon?
So I tell you what, that's the ones highlighted here. That's a single platoon,
Right.
and within each platoon you've got 3 separate sections.
Ah, right. I see.
You've kind of got the HQ TAC, I tend to call it, and then you've got this light mortar that can. So looking at that, we've got a bit of high explosive, a bit of smoke, and white phosphorus, which is another form of smoke, but it's and it can be used. It shouldn't be used defensively.
Should be used, yeah.
But it's
defensively mainly.
It's like quick smoke. So where the smoke takes time to build up.
Well, yeah.
White phosphorus just goes poof, and it's like there basically. That's our platoons like that. I mean that one's not too bad a nick. Some of them are down a few men.
I'm just trying to get my orientation here. What direction is that platoon facing?
So, the one we're on now. So that's facing north. Where's that facing? That's north, east.
Yeah. East
at the minute. So you've got one facing out east. You've got one roughly facing east. So it's sort of on the back end of town. You have one facing south. So that's
which is the direction of the enemy.
Yeah. You've got... So this is the machine gun platoon. From the machine gun platoon, you've got 2 separate sections. So there's one on the east, one on the south. Facing which way? So they're sort of in these little positions. They're co-located with a anti-tank gun. So we can look at that quick now. That's one of the anti-tank guns. Oops. Which you can't. So that's the kind of view they've got. Which actually there's a brow of a hill there. So whilst it looks like a really... Hang on. It's not actually that good a sight. When you look at it that way, it's not that good a line of sight. Because I don't know if you can see that. So you see the fence line?
Yeah.
The fence line's in a dip. There's quite a lot of dead ground there, to be fair.
Yeah.
So that's a good spot. Sorry, right. So we've got one pair of machine guns facing south, one pair of machine guns facing east. We've spotted that first anti-tank gun facing south into the open ground. It's paired with another one again facing south. Is that any better? So it's actually these aren't brilliantly placed. So we might have to shuffle them initially. We've got these 2 tank destroyers. So are you familiar with... you watch the Tank Museum, don't you?
Yeah.
Have they done a video on tank destroyers or?
Yeah, but I don't think I'm like overly familiar what the difference is between a tank and a tank destroyer.
So my basic understanding of the tank destroyers is their mobility. So they're fast.
Yeah.
And they look like a tank.
Yeah.
But if you look down here, they're not especially armoured.
Yeah.
So it's a mobile gun platform basically.
Right. Okay.
You've got a nice big gun. You've also got an open top, so they're not completely enclosed.
Yeah. So the idea is to be able to take the tank out before it can hit you.
Yeah. So I think so my habit is to keep, certainly for the World War II games, I keep the top open. So because if you imagine, they've got tiny little windows to look out.
Yeah.
But if they're just looking over the top, they tend to have better spotting abilities.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, that's 1 second. So that might be. So it says a 76. That's 76. I don't know if that just means it's another 17 pounder. Is it? Maybe not. I don't know. the specifics, but that's another anti-tank asset, and that is what we've got to play with.
Right.
Oh, so at the company level, you've got a sniper, and you've got the actual. So this guy, forward observer, he will be probably the only person with the radios and the authority, I suppose, to call in artillery. So if you go to, let's have a nose. Oh no. Okay, so that's the section machine gun. So the platoon, anything with a flag, so like an officer can call in artillery. A section cannot. So like that. So for your awareness, if these guys, for instance, spot something that you want to drop artillery on,
yeah,
they don't have permission to drop it.
Yeah.
So for your awareness, this guy has to run over to them.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of so some of the game's details for, it's probably easier for, so down here you've got these sort of different icons, and what they represent is the level of communications for like command and control. So at the moment, for example, this team can visually see their commander. This guy, so the platoon commander, has contact with the company commander on radio. I think there's some other ones like, so he can really up in his face see him, for example. This guy can see maybe hand signals. I don't know.
Right.
It's the sort of different representation of how information is being passed.
Because everything's quite clustered in an urban environment, isn't it? So you'd imagine that represent reality.
Yeah, it works in our favour to an extent, because it's how quickly they can communicate things. And I suppose back to this. So if this guy spots a target for artillery, he does not have permission to call it in at his. He's a lance corporal.
Yeah.
You can rush the captain over.
He's got to get permission, basically, to.
No. So like he can't. There's.
He doesn't have radio.
He doesn't have any. He probably. I mean, you could even say he doesn't have the proper fire control orders even.
Yeah.
So he's like, and it's a bit like, so when I was still in, I wouldn't know how to call in artillery, if I'm honest. But
basically you've just got to send that information back, sighting of the enemy,
Well, the easiest in the game, to be honest, is this guy's going to be doing some real cardio. He's going to be running everywhere to, like, if this guy sees him, we need to rush him here so he can call in the artillery.
Yeah, right, okay.
Basically.
And the other thing I was going to say is that, like, any troops with, like, Piats or anything like that?
Yes, yeah, so I think we spotted a few. So there's one. We've got... So that's a good point. In terms of, so 2 platoon has, I think typically they have a single Piat per platoon. So one section has their Piat. So that's, what is it? Projector infantry anti-tank or something.
Yeah.
It's
basically a spring, isn't it? Like, is it like spring loaded?
Yeah, it's like a funny one.
It's like a big party popper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that thing, they've got one on the corner here. Where's the other platoon? So we've got one platoon. One platoon's got one just back from the edge of the town. And yeah, a single Piat just back from the edge of town. And who have we got here? Yeah, and same again. So they've got a single. Well, actually, double check. Yeah, so each platoon has a single Piat, 6 bombs. Are they bombs? They're not rockets. 6 Piat shots.
Yeah.
And that's where they are. So in most cases, actually looking at it, so in most cases they are central to the platoon. So they're in the centre of the platoon typically. Some of them have been broken out into actual. So again, if we look at this, you can do an anti-tank team, and you can just break off those 2 men.
Right.
So you don't necessarily. If for example you had a tank rumbling down, and you're in a firefight, you can break off a thing to just these 2 blokes to tackle it, whilst the remainder tackle something else.
Right. So the way I look at it is that we're assuming the enemy are going to send tanks.
Yes.
From the south to the north.
Yeah.
So what I'd say is, you've got to sort of prioritise what are your most important vital units. So the way I look at it is, it's the tank destroyers and 17-pounder guns. Like a hierarchy. How would you?
So that's a good. We'll
of assets, a hierarchy of assets.
We'll do that first, and then we'll look at the ground based on that. So, I don't know if I think we were talking in the car, but my expectation. So we're expecting armoured attack. So my expectation, the most important stuff we've got on the field is anything that can knock out armour, and that is the anti-tank guns, which are very slow to move. So these poor guys, if they have to move, we need to have. So I would say, to characterize it, if we have a feeling something's happening, we need to move them quick,
right?
Because they take a long time to move. So if I don't know, if something's coming and we need to shuffle it so it can see it, it needs to shuffle as soon as possible. Because
what do you think's the most important? What do you think is the most effective way to deal with utilisation of the gun? It needs a large field of fire, or is defence more important? I mean, if you could funnel.
Funneling's a good approach.
But I think I'd more likely to do that with the Piats from.
Well, I reckon. So that's a good point. So I would say the anti-tank guns want to, because they can't necessarily move as fast. They need to probably be in an ambush almost. So they need to catch someone off guard. The tank destroyers, I would probably say, because they're mobile, they need to take advantage of their mobility. So I think, because
I was going to say, if those anti-tank guns are out in the open, I mean they're pretty much sitting ducks, aren't they?
They need to. So like this one again, I don't think that's that good a position. No.
Because if you have the elements of surprise ambush, you're almost certainly going to at least take one tank out, aren't you?
Well, that's what... So like, a few missions back, that's a problem I did have. So you found the anti-tank gun is really effective, but as soon as they zero in on where it is...
Right.
All the enemy tanks start returning fire on it, and it can't move.
It gets out. It's basically outgunned, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's over. It needs to get. It needs to take advantage while it can, because it's if it doesn't get them, it's knackered. You can't get the. So I don't think there's a way of abandoning gun, and you certainly can't move fast. Oh, you can bail out. If it got that bad, but I don't really want to leave the assets.
Because the way I'm thinking about it is that if you know a direction the tank is going through down a main street, it doesn't have the ability. Well, it can, but it'll take time for it to turn.
Yeah.
And basically, if you have an ambush situation, firing onto the flank of it, I mean, that seems like the logical thing.
On that, one thing I suppose looking back at the tank destroyers, my understanding is they're more maneuverable because they're on tracks. The turret on these isn't very quick to turn, so So that may be a consideration in terms of whether this is actually that good a position. I mean, they could see plenty from this orchard, but I mean, it's no different to the anti-tank guns. Once they're spotted, they need to not be spotted. They need to get out of sight.
The one thing I'd say about the anti-tank, the tank destroyers rather, is that will it be preferable to be split up so the enemy has 2 targets to fire on?
Yeah, you can. I've seen that before where you can draw their attention to one and hit with the other. So that might be an idea. Because it's real time though, that's the other thing I might consider is. Okay, so here's so we've discussed the anti-tank assets, the Piat's importance. I think the infantry, if it is an armoured attack, I'm tempted straight off the bat actually to do this. So limit the actual infantry to very short range. Don't open fire until.
Yeah, I think so. It's just the element of surprise, isn't it?
It's a bit of that, and it's a bit of the fact that if it is an armoured attack, an Enfield rifle,
it's not going to do
you might hit the commander, but he'll just and on that point, so you might hit the commander. So I think I did that a few games back, which is good because if you hit the commander, you hit him. If you don't hit him, he tends to duck inside. And once he's inside, he can't see what's going on as well. He's got his periscopes and his. So that I think would be a useful way to use the artillery. So I think the artillery, what I would do is not necessarily destroy the enemy, but certainly force him to button up the tank.
Yeah.
Because then he loses his situational awareness. So that's what I'm going to suggest.
Where would you place the sniper?
I don't know what's his views at the minute. So he's not in the worst or best at the minute. I think for the time being. So he's got his little. Is
he on like the junction of 2 roads?
Well, actually, no, there you go. So that's not a bad position because you can see south and you can see east. So that I'm going to keep him there. That's not a bad position. I don't think you'd love to put him in like the church tower, but you can't.
That's a cliche, isn't it?
So we'll keep him here. Right, we've been nattering for
half an
hour. So I think what we'll do, we'll have a look down this end. We should pre-plan some artillery. We should pre-plan probably the tank destroyers. So I think I'll do that. No, look down this end, and then understand it. So I tell you what, how would you attack this town for a start? Because I think
if it was me, I'd divide the forces up so I didn't get congested in the middle. But I don't know how the AI. I mean, what was the doctrine of the SS at the time? Where was it full frontal assaults or was it something more subtle? I don't know.
Now, I don't know either, but my basic understanding of I think tactics that got carried forward was so fingertip feeling reconnaissance, so that they try and feel forward. Well, actually, I don't know if that would apply to an assault or counter-attack like this, but I remember from. I grabbed the book. So there's a section in this discussing and this is after the war. This is takeaways that they had from their experience, not necessarily in the West, but a mixed. I think it's called the Russian campaign.
Right.
so this book, Battle Group, is referring to another book called The Russian Campaign, and it's experience from the Eastern Front. One of the things they cover is mobility, concentration at a few decisive points, so and the bold application of force. So whether it's like whether that filters down to a company level, I'm not sure, but what you could almost expect is they'll identify. Okay, so if you look at the town, we've had to spread across the town.
Yeah.
But if they absolutely smash one part of it, very very focused, very decisive attack against one direction, I think that might be what we expect.
Yeah.
And then look at
So when you're saying that they'd like the probing, they might send out some sort of like how do you say it? Reconnaissance. Yeah. To try and find out where your positions are. You know, if you open fire on them or.
I don't think so. I think so. Thinking about contextually for this battle.
Yeah.
We attacked this morning, and then it's an imminent counterattack. So I suppose you could think of it as not that they don't have time for reconnaissance.
Yeah.
It's they literally just left this village.
Yeah.
They already know the village.
Yeah. That's
so I think you're not going to see a reconnaissance element. I think it's an immediate armoured counterattack, and I think so. If we're thinking,
well, I assume they'd know that they'd heavily damaged the Canadian troops as well. Like they're only on 60% strength. They'd probably know that they've killed a fair few.
That's the point of the counterattack, really. So the counterattack is before
you can embed properly.
Yeah, they've taken the town. They're exhausted. They've depleted ammunition. The tanks have had to refuel.
Yeah.
You know, they're in a weakened state, and it's an opportunity.
Immediate counter-attack.
Yeah. And on the base, so I think just whilst we've been talking, looking at this map, it's going to be right or left, basically. And I think left looks weaker, but then we spotted this dead ground here, so it might not be as poor an approach as we thought. And then looking on the right, you've got this hill rise, which I think you could probably, if you get up to this position looking into the town, that's a good observational position. And then also looking at that direction, this orchard blocks a great deal of our line of sight. So, and I tell you what, I'll try and do it. Should we pause it there, and I'll try and do a screenshot to explain what I mean, basically. Okay. So, screenshot and pause. So we're recording again, and this time we've got this lovely, extravagant version like MS Paint. But if you imagine, this ground here. Can we do that as like a block? I'm going to do a lovely, like, I don't know, pink. No. We'll cut some of this out.
Yeah.
So that is dead. That we cannot see into this ground here. I think there was a bit of dead ground here where we cannot see into as well.
Do you mean like a bit of a furrow in the ground where?
Yeah. So like
this
is raised. We can't really observe into here. If you remember the anti-tank guns,
the line of sight. Yeah,
they couldn't quite see over this lip here. And then I think if we look at, how can I do this? So I think if we're looking from the town, there's actually quite a lot of that orchard obscures quite a large portion of our view. So we could, I think, and that's, I'll try and do a bit of a, because we can see like up to the ridgeline, We can't see behind the ridgeline or through the forest. This orchard, the only thing that can see this direction at the moment is those 2 tank destroyers. The infantry and anti-tank guns they cannot see through the orchard, and the infantry and nothing can see into this dip. I don't think we'll go back and double check the actual game, but I think that's the sort of ground they're covering, which is actually making me think they will do.
Well, I can't account for how the behaviour of the AI in a game would be, but I know if it was me commanding the counter attack, I wouldn't go down the front gate of the enemy.
I reckon it's going to be that way. And then I tell you the other thing. Sorry to.
Yeah.
When I was looking at the attack, that's the direction I wanted to attack it. But for the basis of realism between the 2 companies, it's in the last video. But I wanted to come in from, I wanted to come in like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Around, yeah.
I think that's probably what I'd do.
Well, the other thing as well is that it's less dense. There's less ambush. There's less density of building, so assume there's more manoeuvrability for the attacking forces to go that way. It looks like it would be less defended.
Yeah, stepping back ever so slightly, the way you normally plan these things is courses of action. So what is the enemy likely to do? And if they come this direction, how do we tackle them? If they come this direction, how do we tackle them?
Well, the first thing as an attacking force is how can I assume is how can I utilise any advantages I've got, and the landscape is to shroud my advance. So I should say I suspect on the bounce of probability that's the way they'd attack for 2 reasons. One, it gives less coverage for the defenders, and secondly, it looks like it would be attacking the less defended part of town.
So, okay, we'll make a defence on the basis of this is our concern.
Yeah, this is.
We still need something here.
Yeah. So like 2/3 of the forces. I mean, this is the thing, is it? Do you put all your eggs in one basket?
I mean, it's how quickly we can shift if we do. So I think, if anything, it will be. It's how quickly we can shift the anti-tank guns either way, and it's how quick. Well, what we want to do with this tank destroyers in the orchard. I think so. Like, my opinion, my thought is, if anything, I think even if they went this way, I think they'd still have Overwatch on the hill. So I would be tempted to put in artillery on a slow barrage up here to either disrupt them or dissuade them.
Right.
And then I think it's the case of how do we shift the AT guns responsively, and what do we do with the tank destroyers proactively. We'll go with that. Yeah. I'll pause here.
Do you think there's any chance they could split the forces?
Depends what they hit us with. That's where we become responsive. I think. So after like 43 minutes of talking, I think our plan at the moment is artillery on the hill, shift forces as required.
When you say artillery on the hill, how do you mean it'll be firing
preemptively? So I don't know. You could imagine that, like, whether it's a case of I don't know. We're expecting an attack.
Yeah.
We're sat there. We can hear tanks coming over the hill, so we've preemptively called in fire. Do you think it's gamey or cheating? Should we respond with the artillery or should we proactively artillery?
Well, what would they do in real life? I mean, you'd think if you're defending, it'd be like a premium put on resources, wouldn't it? You know.
Well, I tell you what. So, like, if we switch back to the game and put the icons back on, the biggest problem we have regarding artillery is it takes 8 minutes to call in.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
by then it could all be over.
They could have gone. They could have moved on by the time we finally got artillery flying. So I'd be
like suppressing fire.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
The mortars don't take as long. 5 minutes, 8 minutes for the 25-pounders. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. So I think
like a denial of area.
But just not. I'm not gonna waste ammunition. I'm gonna harass. That's my idea with that. I'm gonna go with harassing fire mission. I think. How's this look? So they don't have a bad. They don't have. I tell you what I'll do with these. I think we need to keep them there for observation and anti-tank.
Yeah. And fast response.
Fast response. But what I'm going to do... So I'm going to... This is... Okay, my thought process is... And how bad is this? I'm going to shuffle in there. Same with this one. Maybe. I'm going to... So I've put them on an indefinite pause.
Right.
And when you unpause them... Oh, crap. I can't undo that, can I? So they're on an indefinite pause with line of sight down to these areas. And if they make contact, I want them to reverse away. Out of sight. So we maintain them as like a...
Forward observation.
Forward observation for the moment, yeah. But the second they need to get out of there, I want to unpause them to reverse. That's what I reckon with them. So we've got artillery set up, tank destroyers waiting, anti-tank guns. Anti-tank guns, they really don't have a good... Like, could they be... I think for the time being, I'll keep them where they are. And I think, so like, if this has to move, it's not got too far to move to face east. So you can still face east and catch them, hopefully. I mean, like, it really depends on, if we see them heading east, these guys moving all of, 15 meters... Can they move 15 meters in the time it takes these guys to move 300 or whatever? Yeah. I think that's doable.
What I was going to say is, like, you know, like, do you see that farmyard with the walls around it?
This one?
Yeah, I mean, you'd still have, like, quite a fairly good angle, like, there, wouldn't you? And then, like, if something came along there, you'd ambush them, wouldn't you?
That's very close range.
Yeah.
I'm... Do you know what? I'm not going to move that just yet. Okay. I'm not going to, because like we'll watch in for what's going on, and then this. How confident? Should we press go and then there's no pausing. We have to respond.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Do you want to go for it?
Well, what about the PIAT teams? Do you think we should set them up into?
I don't think they're so like. I think with the PIAT they're going to be very much responsive. So, like, I don't think we can... What do you think? Like, I don't know if... Do you mean, like, ambush points at crossroads?
Yeah, or... like, an upper floor of buildings, so they can just...
They can do that, because they don't have... They're just a spring. They can do that.
Because what I was going to say, if there's, like, a convoy of things, if you could do that thing where you could immobilise...
Yeah. So you could
immobilise a vehicle on one end and then the other end, and then have the middle completely stuck, unable to manoeuvre.
That's quite ambitious for combat mission, but we'll give it a go. Yeah. I reckon, like, if it so like So this one up in this building?
Yeah.
On the crossroad?
That sounds good, yeah.
Oh, they're already there. Okay. Where was this next one?
Should we have one in one of those farmyard buildings?
That is a good shout, I reckon. If I can find... There it is. So at the moment it is... Do you know, the other thing I desperately wish we had was engineers. Because what I've tended to do, like... If anything, I'm used them just as much for defense as attack. You like, ideally, once we're being attacked, I don't want to be running down the main road. I want to be running through a mouse hole.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want? So we can pop this guy. We'll go for the farm building. Do you want it on the upper floor?
Yeah.
Go like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last thing is the sniper still in a good position?
I reckon so.
Yeah.
I reckon so.
Okay.
Yeah. This last 80, like on the back end of town, or I mean, I hope they don't get this far.
Yeah.
Or you can keep them responsive. I don't know.
I think you've got to be bold and responsive, and put all your eggs in one basket. I think.
Okay. Right.
Like, because if they're gonna smash with all the force, it doesn't really matter if if things are too spread out.
Are you ready for this?
No, but let's do it.